I'd like to introduce the building blocks of the BFRB Unwind tool. The first component is breath. Did you make a face? Unfortunately, the idea of breathing during challenging times has almost become cliched. Think of someone saying, "Just breathe." Very quickly we respond with, "Yeah, like that's going to help." Or, "I'm freaking out, how's that going to make me feel better?" Or, "I am." Indeed, the idea of breath almost seems a bit new age, a bit woolly, something that others do, something we've avoided, something we intuitively know is unlikely to do anything or simply doesn't fit with who we are. And what's more, we don't have time for that sort of thing. I think this response is worth acknowledging, and it's certainly normal. After all, it's easier to tell ourselves something is rubbish because if it's rubbish, it gives us an excuse not to try. And if we don't try something, then we don't find that it was challenging, and we certainly won't fail. I'd like to confess that I find myself dismissing things regularly.
Excuse me.
So I've developed a strategy to respond differently. When I do dismiss something, I notice that I'm dismissing it. Then I give it a go anyway. On many occasions, through trying it out, I realised that what I was dismissing was actually really rather helpful. So why bother with breath? Well, from a physiological perspective, diaphragmatic breathing helps ensure full oxygen exchange, which is the swapping out of all of our outgoing carbon dioxide with incoming oxygen. This process slows our heart rate, lowers and stabilises our blood pressure. So breathing, specifically diaphragmatic breathing, helps us to relax while being an emotional and psychological anchor to the present moment. Sounds pretty efficient, doesn't it? But let me offer you an alternate explanation without the B word. If someone said to me, "The next time you're overwhelmed, there's this thing that will keep you anchored to the present moment, it will help you relax psychologically and physically, and it will be the vehicle for positive change." Well, I'd certainly like to try that. Andy Puddicombe, author of Meditation and Mindfulness, has dedicated much of his adult life to mindfulness. He discusses the importance of a preparatory phase for meditation, intentionally setting aside time and working towards a meditative practice. While this approach is important for daily meditation practice, it's not my intention with BFRB Unwind. BFRB Unwind is rather like a sticking plaster, something you use immediately when it's needed most, a short-term fix to get you on your way again. When you're overwhelmed and the present moment seems elusive, when you feel you have more important things to do and no time to do them in, and the thought of breathing seems ridiculous, the very second when it feels right to go to the bathroom, or your hand goes up towards your scalp or your face or arms, that's prime BFRB Unwind time. The pinnacle of thinking how useless it probably would be when you are raising your hand, that's the moment when I recommend you press play on the BFRB Unwind recording. At that point, the next moment is undiscovered. This is the moment to seize your opportunity. Let's talk about diaphragmatic breathing. Did you know there's a rhythm to it? I'd like to work through this before introducing the BFRB Unwind tool. Please join me in practicing diaphragmatic breathing. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Try breathing in deeply through your nose and, without trying to raise your lower hand or push out your belly, see if it will rise naturally as you fill your lungs and engage your diaphragm before you start to fill your chest with air. Then, as you breathe out slowly and deeply through your mouth, you may notice that your belly lowers first and then your chest lowers. This method fully engages the diaphragm, deepens the breath, and further facilitates the all-important oxygen exchange. Now, like any new skill, this rhythm can take a while to pick up. Please don't worry if it seems tricky at first or even a bit unnatural. After all, when we feel stressed and busy, we're often breathing shallowly from our chests, not deep into our bellies. If diaphragmatic breathing is new to you and you would like to, please pause this video now and practice the technique for a couple of minutes. Remember though, there's no right or wrong with diaphragmatic breathing. It's what feels comfortable for you that matters. The other key element of the BFRB unwind tool is progressive muscle relaxation, also known as Jacobsonian relaxation. In the 1920s, Dr. Edmund Jacobson developed this technique to assist his patients with managing their anxiety. Progressive muscle relaxation involves tensing and then releasing groups of muscles and noticing the difference between the sense of tension and relaxation. In BFRB Unwind, we'll only focus on your hands. That's because hands are often pivotal in the BFRB behavioural chain, either being actively engaged in the behaviours or they're the target of the behaviours. The BFRB Unwind tool changes the role of the hands, allowing them to shift to leading the management of overwhelm rather than being engaged in the BFRB and part of that well-known behavioural chain. Based on learning theory, the idea is that if we redefine the role of our hands, their movements and their associations, we might go some way towards broadening out this new supportive role. We might even find our hands are reluctant to engage in the BFRB. This reluctance is important, as even with a moment of reluctance, particularly during an automatic episode, there comes an opportunity for someone to pivot and affect change in that moment.